Hello, everyone. We are here to talk about the business rules enhancements as part of Clarity 16.0.0. As part of this release, we have made the following enhancements to the business rules. First, we've increased the number of active rules from 10 to 25. We've provided the functionality where you can now disable editing of attributes. You now will have the ability to hide blueprint specific actions. And then finally, you can define business rules for pages. Why is this important? Well, customers wanted the ability to control specific data types that are populated within investment. This can be done based on other values or investment and assigned user groups. So customers essentially today would control that if there is a object attribute that should be edited or not edited based on certain other attributes, and they would define processes in the system which would then accordingly lock and unlock, as well as make sure that you're populating the data. All of those changes would be done via processes. Based on that feedback from the customers, we introduced that functionality in business rules. In addition, in the last release, we provided the ability to invoke processes within the project itself in the form of actions. Customers provided feedback that they want to be able to control as to who should even see those links based on certain conditions. So it shouldn't, granted that the process would have access, but they also wanted to limit the link itself based on certain conditions. So in this release, we are addressing all of those changes. All right, so the first one is the active rules itself. Today, or prior to 16.0.0, administrators could define various numbers of blueprint specific business rules. However, only 10 of those rules could be active at a time. Starting this release, we've enhanced that when now administrators can activate up to 25 of those business rules. We are also introducing the ability to disable attributes using business rules. You in fact have two options as to how you can disable attributes. You can either disable editing of attributes by selecting certain attributes, saying only disable editing of these attributes, or you can define to essentially disable all attributes except of the selected attributes. This way you can control both ways as to how you want to see the attributes being edited or not edited. The flow for defining that, and you'll also see this in the demo, is as follows: that when you go into the business rules, you now will see a new option under actions called disable editing attributes. When you select that, you would get the option to select the attributes that you want to control, as well as another drop down next to it that will allow you to pick, do you want to disable the selected attributes, which is the list of attributes that you're going to select here, or do you want to disable all attributes except for the ones that you selected here? Based on the option you pick, you can, and the list of attributes, your rule can be defined. So in this example, I am defining to disable the selected attributes, and that's done right here. Disable selected attributes, and these are the list of attributes to be disabled. I can use the same flow to define disabling of all attributes except for the selected, and that's just done by picking the disable all except selected option here. And in this example, work status will be the only attribute that I can edit. All other attributes will be view only. When the disable of editing rule is applied, This rule will then be applied within the grid view, the detailed flyout, the properties page, and the board view. So it'll be in all four places, and non-editable fields are grayed out from editing. So you will not be able to click and see any other values for it. The entire field will be grayed out. In order to hide actions within the blueprint, again, this would be a new action that will be available to you in business rules. When you go into the business rules under action, the hide action is another option. Selecting that will then give you the list of actions defined within that blueprint, and you can select one or multiple of those. Based on the ones that you've selected and the condition you've defined, those actions will then be hidden from the properties page of that respective object instance with that blueprint. Starting this release, you can now define business rules for pages. If you remember, Pages was a functionality introduced a few releases ago where Pages allowed you to define multiple channels to either Clarity or other parts of Clarity or external applications. Customers had provided us feedback that they want to create a single page instance, and within that page instance, they would define multiple channels, but they want those channels to be displayed based on certain conditions such as access rights. Well, now using blueprints, you can meet that specific requirement. So now you can have the ability to define business rules within pages and then define based on access rights who can see which module or channel within that page itself. To define the rules within the blueprint, it's going into the blueprint of a respective page. You'll see the new module called rules. That's where you can define the business rule itself. You can define the conditions, and you can define to hide the modules as needed. And then once the condition is met, only the required modules will then be displayed to the end user. All right. With that, let's see the product in action. So here I am in Clarity 16.0.0. The first thing I'm going to do is to go into the Modern UX Administration. And in here, let's look at the blueprints. So what I want to show are the blueprints for my custom investment type where I can disable attributes. So I'm going to go into my blueprint for contract, which is a custom investment type. By going to rules, let's try to create one that will essentially allow me to disable attributes. So the way I would do it is under new rules, I can give this a name. I can define conditions as I need to, and then I can select disable editing of attributes. This is the option, the new option that is available to me. Once I select that, it shows me two options. One is to either disable the selected attributes or disable all except the selected attributes. Once I pick that, I can then pick the respective attributes. As you can see, I can only pick one of the two options. So within a business rule, I can only pick either disable selected or disable all except the selected. Instead of trying to define the full thing, let's go look at one that might already be predefined so you can see how it'll look like once the definition is done. So my first one is when a contract goes into effect. So my condition is contract status is in effect. I want to disable all the attributes except the contract status. And I've created a second rule that if my contract status is signed, then I want to disable only these four selected attributes, which is the goal, corporate priority, department, and location. We'll see that in action in a little bit, but let's also look at how I can hide actions within using my blueprint. So for that, I am going to go into my project blueprint, and under the rules here, I have a new rule predefined, which is hide actions. When I click on it, the condition is hide actions, and when the work status is either completed or canceled, I want to hide these three actions: invoking a stage gate, kick off stage gate, and pull information. There are 4 actions total. That means 3 of them should be hidden once the project work status is changed to completed or canceled. All right. And then the last one that I want to show is the rules for pages. So if I go right here, for my, this is one of the blueprint that I've created for a page. As you can see, now I have the rules option available. And in here, I have defined 2 rules. The first one says that if I'm a financial manager or a PMO financial, then I should hide the go-to-market, agile release, and agile performance. These are channels that are more specific for a project manager, so I don't need to show them to my finance manager. And same thing that if I am a project manager, then I don't need to see my financial modules. So it's going to be the flip based on the user I log in. So that's how are the different blueprints that I can configure. Now let's see these blueprints in action. So the first thing we're going to do is go into my custom investment type, and I'm going to go into contracts. That was the blueprint that I had configured. In here, you can see I have several contracts that I created, and I'm also going to open up my details flyout. So based on the contract status, the field should be either editable or not editable. So when it is in draft, you would see that every field is editable unless it's a calculated field. The same thing applies right here. I can do it from the grid, or I can change these field values from right here. However, when the contract is signed, then I want to limit certain fields. And then you can see right away that for a signed contract, the corporate priority, goal, location, and department are automatically grayed out, but I can change the other fields. The same logic applies right here. So the goal is non-editable, so I cannot edit it. However, if I go into the business priority, that is editable. And finally, if the contract is in effect, then in that case, nothing is editable except for the contract status. And you can see that the rest of the fields are grayed out, but the contract status is editable. And the same is right here. I cannot edit any of these fields, but I can change the contract status. Right, let's close this. And now let's go into the project. And right here, we had the business rule that if the project is active, then I should see all the actions. However, if the project is completed or canceled, then I'll only see 1 out of the 3. So first, I'm going to go into an active project. And right here, you can see I can see all the actions. But if I go into a completed project, only 1 action will be available to me. And because there is only 1 action, I don't even see the drop down. I just see that 1 action that I can click on. All right. Now I'm going to, in order to show the pages functionality, I'm going to log in as 2 different users. The first user that I'm going to log in as is going to be my financial advisor. And in that case, that's Dana Lewis. So as Dana Lewis, if I go into pages and I go into the BI dashboard, I should only see the financial. So there are the only three tabs. These are all the financial data and that I can see. However, if I now log out and log in as a project manager, I should only see the three tabs that are respective to the project manager. So I'm going to go into the pages. I'm going to go into exactly the same BI dashboard. And now you see I have three different tabs. These are all the agiles and go-to-market tabs, which is more specific to a project manager. So now under the same page and same page instance, I can easily control what tabs are shown to the end user based on their access rights. Right? And that concludes the demo for this section. That concludes this section. Thank you, everyone.